for joining us. My name is David Sanders. I'm a NAV financial consultant with Tectura, and I'll be showing you a few of the new features in Dynamics NAV 2013. We'll be asking a few questions during the webcast. So on the slide deck, you will see a poll question come up. I will then launch the poll question within the link, and if you could just complete it, and then we'll move on to the next slide. Your mic should be muted, and if we just ask if you can just keep it muted throughout the presentation, just to minimize background noise. There'll be a chance for you to type your questions via the instant message box at the end of the webcast, so please keep a note of any questions ready for the Q&A session at the end. If you are struggling to hear me, please first check your speakers or headset and volume settings. If you still can't hear me, let me know via the instant message box at the bottom left of your screen. Okay, so we come to the first poll question. I'll now launch the poll question in link. Right, so today's webcast, we're wanting to demonstrate NAV, obviously demonstrate NAV 2013 to you, show you some of the new functionality, some of the changes in the architecture, show you the choice of client which is now available. We'll then move into the 2013 demo where we'll go through some of these things. We'll then move on to the roadmap, and then after that we'll be talking about the Tectura NAV upgrade services. So if we have a look at some of the new functionality, this slide shows a summary of the new NAV functions. You can see there is some new integration into Microsoft Office, into the Microsoft Excel, and we'll discuss this and show this in the demo. Some of the new features are the GL locking table redesigned. So what this does is, in a large environment, it allows a lot of users to post sales and purchase documents at the same time without locking the general ledger tables. So the GL table, what's changed in the design is the GL table is no longer locked at the start of the posting. It remains unlocked until it's absolutely necessary to lock the table. Another change has been made with the dimension entry storing. So there's a new dimension set entry table which has been added. And what this does is dimensions are stored once in the database, and so that instead of storing the dimensions in multiple tables, we're now storing it in a single table. So that will not only save space, but it improves overall performance of the database, because we're not updating multiple tables, we're just updating a single table. So that's the summary of some of the new functions, and we'll go through a few of them in the demonstrations. So moving on to the architecture change. This is the NAV 5 architecture. So we have a SQL server where the NAV database resides. We have a Navision application server connecting to that, and we have the classic clients connecting to that database. So that's the NAV 5 architecture. Now, what changed in NAV 2013 is the introduction of a three-tier setup, where we have the Microsoft SQL Server, the Microsoft Dynamics NAV Server, and the role-tailored client. So the role-tailored client connects to the NAV servers, and that's where all the work is done. All the processing power sits on the middle tier, being the NAV server, and that does all the processing work. So the user's machine doesn't need to be a powerful machine, or it's not going to slow down the network because it's a slow machine. We have in NAV 2009, we had the classic client still connecting directly to the SQL Server, and the Navision application server connecting directly to SQL Server. What's changed now with 2013 is the classic client is now gone, so we no longer have two clients as we did with the in NAV 2009, we only have the role-tailored client. The development environment is obviously used for importing new objects, doing NAV backups, but that's all it's used for. Another change is the Navision application server is now gone. It's no longer separate, and that runs through the NAV service tier, so the middle tier. Another change, Microsoft SQL Server and the middle tier are now 64-bit. Now 64-bit allows the better memory utilization, which means things are speeded up quite significantly by using 64-bit. We now have SharePoint client connecting into the service tier and web client connecting into the service tier. Now we'll go through the web client so you can see that. And just note the browser compatibility there. We can connect through Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, and Chrome, and we can connect through the Safari browser. So that, by connecting through the Safari browser, it also means we can connect via mobile devices. So for example, you can connect through the web client to NAV via your iPad, iPhone, Android tablet. So those are all new possibilities now. And we have an administration tool which controls the NAV service tier. What's nice with this, in large implementations, you can do load sharing on your service tier, and this administration tool will help you with that. So we move on to the choice of client. So as we mentioned, we have the Windows client, which you'll see shortly in the demo. We have the web client, which runs through an Internet Explorer. And we have the SharePoint client. Now, again, the web client enables access to NAV from virtually any device with an Internet browser. So again, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, and Safari can be used to access NAV. The Microsoft Dynamics NAV web client also supports browsers on various mobile devices, such as Windows Phone 7.5, Android, and iOS for iPad and iPhone. And the nice thing with the web client is you don't need to have NAV locally installed on the machine. So because it's just an internet browser, you don't need to have NAV on that machine. When you move to the deployment options, we can obviously deploy on-site at the client site. We have partner hosted, so Tectura offers hosting, and there's Microsoft hosting. Right, so if I move on now, we'll now start the NAV demo. So we can just show you some of these features which are now available in Dynamics NAV 2013. Okay, so I'll just wait for that to load. Okay, so this is, when I open NAV 2013, this is the first screen which I access, which is called the Role Center. Now, if I have a look at the top here, we have back and forward buttons, which help for navigating through NAV. We have an address bar at the top here, which also assists in navigating through the various pages in NAV. We have a very handy quick search function. So this is really nice in NAV 2013. It's also available in NAV 2009. But wherever you can just simply click in here and type what you're searching for, and the system will list everything. For example, I've typed in journal. It's now brought up all the pages, lists, reports which have the word journal in it. I can then scroll through this list and select which one I want to access. Now, it also shows you which menu that item sits in. So in future, you could, if you're using it a lot, you'd be able to get to it, or you could add it simply to your ribbon. Okay, so that's the very handy quick search function. Then move on to the ribbon. Now, clients who use NAV 2009 will remember this is called the action pane. It's now been redesigned, and it's now called the ribbon. NAV, you also notice NAV 2013 has been updated to a look and feel very similar to Office 2010 products. This enables easier and faster navigation for the users. So your users are used to, for example, in Excel, all the tabs and how to navigate around. When you switch over to NAV 2013, it's a lot easier because it's familiar to them. So the ribbon contains different tabs here, and each of the tabs have tasks which are grouped together. So for example, here we have under the Actions tab, we have a group task for new documents. So the user can simply click on this button to create a new sales quote, a new sales invoice, go to a journal, and run reports. So you're doing all of that directly from your ribbon. And this ribbon will change depending on which screen or list you are viewing. So right now I'm on the role center. If I change to another list or another area within NAV, the options in the ribbon will change. So again, the ribbon provides easy access to actions and commands within the system. And we'll see a bit later on where I can customize what is shown in that ribbon. So for example, these are the standard options which come with the sales order processor role, and I can change and add additional commands to that to custom or to personalize it to my everyday needs. Right, we have the navigation pane down the left-hand side here, which I'm sure even clients with the classic client will recognize. So we have the different menu options, the different groupings here, and if we have a look under departments, you'll then see the full access to the system, to all the menu options, so your financial management, sales and marketing, which we can then just expand to get the submenus. So that's the navigation pane. At the bottom here we have the status, what's called the status pane. So it shows you again what company you're logged into currently, which is also shown in the address bar, today's current date, and your username who's logged into the database. Now the role center screen here on the right hand side, I'm going to talk about that now. So I'm currently connected as a sales order processor. Now that's my login is connected to the sales order processor profile. So what's available in NAV 2013 is you can connect multiple users to the same profile. And so profiles are defined as a collection of Microsoft Dynamics NAV users who share the same role center. So by doing that, you're allocating users to the same profile, and that would be their job function. So the sales order people, and that profile would have tasks specific to their role. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding, I can add pieces onto this role center, so which we'll see shortly. And these are shortcuts, just general information. Even you can add charts to this. And that's, obviously remember when I log into NAV, this is the screen that I see by opening NAV. So if I click on the application menu, customize this page, I now have all these different parts which I can attach to my role center. So I'm going to select the left-hand side, click on Activities, I want to add that. I'm going to link Outlook to my profile. On the right-hand side, I'd like to see the trailing sales order chart. I'd like to see some information about my customers, and let's put notifications on there. Now, each of these parts I've now designed the role center to the left-hand side and right-hand side. I can move these up or down, move it to the left. I can change the look and feel of this. Now, if at all you've made a mistake, no need to panic. You can just click Restore Defaults, and the system will restore it back to the way it comes with standard NAV. Right, so I've added those. I'm now going to click on OK. And you'll see these parts now being added to the role center. So under the activities section here, I can see stacks of documents. So these stacks are called queues, and if I click on them, this will open the list which makes up, for example, the open sales orders. I click on that. I'm now viewing a list of open sales orders. And that stack is just a visual cue for you to, when you log on to your role center, you can see the stacks here. It's a small stack like this, for example, there's only 6 items there, or it's larger with 21 items. The activities also provide shortcuts for this job function. So, for example, I'm a sales order processor, I'm interested in sales documents, I can, from here, create a new sales quote, create a new sales order. So that's from my activity screen. So the tasks shown here would be specific to the sales order processor role. We have Microsoft Outlook linked into the role center. Now the idea of this is to be able to just look at your role center and not have to leave the role center to be able to, for example, I can see how I have 96 emails in my inbox. As a new email comes in, that will obviously be updated. I have a link here which I can then click, which will open Outlook for me to go and have a look at my inbox. I also have calendars and tasks which will also be shown, which I can simply click on and it will open that in Outlook. Now if we move to the charts, this is a really nice feature which has been added in NAV. It was available in 2009, but it's been improved in 2013. So I've added a standard chart to my role center. I can, for example, here change the filters, change the look and feel of this. So I'm changing the period length, and you can see how the chart changes as I do that. If I hover over the values, you can see it shows me how that value is made up. So this is showing released versus open orders, and again I can click on this chart and the system will open the list of which shows which orders make up that value, those open orders. Okay, so that's the activities section of, that's the chart section on the role center. Now I can again remove these parts. I can collapse them if they're taking up a bit too much space, expand them again. So this screen is really custom. The user can personalize it to the look and feel that they want on their role center. I have a list here of customers, so I can add customers that are of interest to me that I'm wanting to monitor, and that's simply done by just clicking on the manage list, selecting which customer, clicking on OK, and there you can see it's been added. You'll see the balance here. So it's just a screen to show you some more information about that client, and if you wanted to monitor this client, this customer on a frequent basis. We also have notifications here at the bottom, which we'll go through shortly when we get to the customer cards. But that is the role center. I'm now going to move to a customer list. To sales order list. So if I click on sales orders, here you can see a list of sales orders in the system. Now, as I move through the lines in the open sales order list, notice the fact boxes on the right-hand side here. As I move through the lines, the values there change. So these values are obviously related information to the sales order. So here, for example, I'm on this line and I can see my customer statistics. So I don't have to leave this area and go to another area to go and find out that information. It's directly available from the list. It also has hyperlinks on here, so I can click on this value and the system then opens up and shows me exactly how that amount is made up. Okay, another nice feature which has been added in 2013 is in the top here you'll see the view show as list, which we're viewing at the moment, or show as chart. So if I click on show as chart, I now have the ability So I'll just see if that's coming through to everyone yet. All right, that's coming through. All right, so I can now select, based on that list, I can now add measures and dimensions to it. So for example, on the sales order list, I'm going to select amount by customer posting group, and I'm going to select a dimension being the department code. So I click that. NAV then updates based on that sales order list. And here you can see I'm viewing a chart showing me the sales orders by amount, customer posting group, and department. I can, as you can see, move this around, so it's a 3D view of that information. If I hover my mouse over the stack, you can see it tells me that that's for department code sales, customer posting group foreign, and gives me the amount. Now what I can do here is I can right click on this, save the picture, copy it. So you could copy this, put it into a Word document or put it into an email. You'd be able to print it. So these are the options which are now available in NAV 2013, which is really, really nice. I can also save this view, so I can save this and open it up at a later stage. The other thing, if I go to the application menu and customize this chart, you'll see that I have a lot more options. So you've got different measures which I can set up, the different axes, and it'll give you a preview of the chart at the bottom. I can then save this chart and I can use it and add it to my role center at a later stage. So that's what's really nice, is users can create charts which are useful to them, and they can then share them with other users within NAV. So the other users would be able to have access to that chart and add it to their role center. So these charts are available on any list within NAV, and I can simply just switch back to the list by clicking on the Show As List here. Now, I can change the sort order of this list. I can change the look and feel, so I can choose columns, move them around, add a freeze pane, which is very handy when looking through a list. So if I scroll to the right, you'll see the freeze pane stays here and my information changes, just like we do in Excel. Right, so talking about Excel, one of the options which we can do is we can obviously change the sort order of this. We can hide columns, show columns, and I can export this directly out to Excel. So from this list here, I can click on the application, print and send, and I can send this out to Excel. We also have other print and send options here. So for example, you can send it to Word. But I'm going to send this directly out to Excel. So just remember, whatever sort order we had on that list, whichever columns we had shown on that list, that's the information which will be exported to Excel. So here's my Excel workbook, which has now had the information exported from NAV. Notice here at the top, we have a link to the database, so that's what's new. In NAV 2009 and NAV 5, we could export information out to Excel, but what's new in NAV 2013, notice here at the top in Excel, you have a new tab called Dynamics NAV. If I click on that, you'll see that there's a refresh button. So I can go back into my sales orders here, update, let's go and update this record. So I've changed the sell to customer number on that sales order. I then go back to Excel, under my Dynamics NAV tab, so we're going to be watching this record here. I then click on the refresh button, connects to Dynamics NAV, retrieves the latest information, and it updates my spreadsheet. So there you can see the sell to customer number has been updated. So this is really handy where you've got, you want to do ad hoc reporting in Excel, or you have pivot tables already set up in Excel. You can just have this information linked to NAV, refresh it, and that'll refresh your pivot tables, and your ad hoc reporting will be up to date. No need to go and export all the data out again. You can simply click refresh, and that'll just get the latest information from NAV and update it. Now, it's only sending data from NAV to Excel. So, for example, if I change something in Excel, it's not going to update NAV, which is quite a good feature, I think. Don't want changes in Excel to go and update NAV. So it's just sending from NAV down to Excel. So once in Excel, you can obviously manipulate the data further and do some ad hoc reporting out of it. Okay, while we're talking about Excel, another nice new feature with the integration to NAV from Excel is we can now copy and paste from Excel. So whereas before, if we wanted to copy and paste a line into NAV from Excel, it would put everything in the first field. We can now, let's open the sales order, and I can now copy a line from Excel and go into NAV, select paste rows, and that'll paste it directly into NAV from Excel. Obviously, we still do validations on the data. So, for example, if there wasn't any quantity in this location, the system would pop up an error and ask you to confirm that you want to go either into negative inventory or you wanted to allow that line to be imported. So that's a really handy feature now, being able to copy from Excel and paste into NAV. So another place, for example, if we go to a general journal, so here again I'm going to use the quick search feature, which is really handy. Open general journals. I'll now go and copy lines from Excel and paste the rows directly into NAV. And that's updated NAV. Again, we'll do validation on the data. So, for example, if you entered an incorrect document number or the document number was too long, the system will prompt you, well, give an error and tell you what's wrong. Things like invalid account numbers. So it still does data validation when we import. So that's a nice, really nice feature. Before we weren't able to do that. Right. So now another thing we can do here while we're on a list is I can add a list here. Add a filter to this list. So let's say, for example, I wanted to see only sales orders which had a status of open. So what I can do here is I can select that I want to add a filter where the status is equal to open, or any combination of these values here. But I want to select, I only want to see open sales orders. So I click on open. The list is now filtered. So we can see a filtered list here. Now, if I'm going to be using this often, let me just remove this. If this is something which I'm going to be using on a daily basis, so I want to log in and see in the morning all my open sales orders, I can save this view. So I've now filtered this list. I then click on the sales order button here and I save the view as. So sales orders, and I'm now going to change that and say it's open sales orders. I then select the activity group where I want to save it. So I want to save it under the home section. Click on OK. So system then just needs to refresh NAV so that those changes will be shown. I click on OK. I now expand the sales order section here. And now I have, okay, there's two of them, but I have a sales order open list which is shown. So you can save these views and they'll be added to your home navigation pane, which is really handy so you don't have to do it each time or export the information out to Excel and sort it to get this. You can set the filter yourself, save the view, and look at it when needed. I'm now going to move on to the customer list. So I move over to the customer list, and I'm going to open a customer card. In the top here, so as mentioned before in the beginning, you see how the ribbon has now changed. It's now specific to things that you would do with a customer card. So it now has home, actions, navigate, and a reporting tab at the top. And these are all specific to the things you do with the customer card. Now if I have a look at the link option in the top here, if I click on that, I can now link a document. So for example, a contract or a credit rating for this client. So I could attach this document. It could be scanned and saved somewhere on the server. I can now attach that to this customer card, which would then be available for everyone to, provided they had access to that shared folder drive, they would then be able to access this information and open the document. So it can either be a document on a server or it can be a web address. So for example, if I were to add that, click on save, I now have a web address. So if I was to click on that, that would open my internet, my default browser, and it would take me directly to that website. If I close that, you'll now see on the right-hand side here, we also have a links fact box, which is on the customer card, and that would have all the different links shown there. Okay, so you can use that for credit ratings, company contracts, that type of information if you're wanting to link it directly to the customer card, or to any card, in fact, in the system. I then move on to the notes section. Now what I can do is I can allocate a note on this client, and I can notify someone about it, someone else in the organization. So if I click here to create a new note, there I can just type in, please review the credit limit. I could then select that I want to notify someone, and I'd be able to select from a list of users and select the user that I want to notify. Now where this is used, I'm just going to select myself for this demonstration. I then click on save, and what would happen is, if you remember back on the role center, there was a my notifications box that would then show up there. That user would then be able to double click on that, and it would take them directly to that customer card. So there I'm looking directly at that customer card. They could review the credit limit, send a note back, or just delete the note. So those are notes in the system. Another nice feature is under the application menu here, we can copy a link to this page. So if I click on that, I can then, for example, open an email, open a Word document, and I can paste this link in here. So, for example, if I was to send an email to someone and say, please have a look at this customer card, or review this this invoice, or you can create a link to any page, they would then simply hover over that. It would be a hyperlink, click on that, and it would open NAV for them and take them directly to that record. So that's some of the nice feature with creating links to documents. Another nice feature here, you'll see the integration now to OneNote. So OneNote is a free-form information gathering, and it provides a place to centrally record information. Now, the OneNote is enabled on a per role basis in the profiles. So, for example, you can link a OneNote repository for all the sales order processes, and they would connect to the central repository and update the OneNote documents linked to, for example, customer cards or sales records. So if I click on OneNote, I can now, for example, here you see I've added an image. There's also the link back, so if you click on this, this would open NAV and take you to that customer card. Because remember, with OneNote, you're not launching it only through NAV. You can obviously just open your OneNote document and have all the stuff linked from NAV directly into that. So you could open OneNote and click on that link, and it would open NAV for you and take you directly to that customer card. So I can add additional notes, drawings, screen clippings, audio commentaries to this OneNote, save it, and that link from the customer card to the OneNote document would be there. So OneNote is also an application which it's available for Windows, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and Symbian, which means you've been able to use a mobile device to connect to this OneNote repository and make updates to it. So that's another real handy feature that's been added. When it comes to data entry, a new feature which has been done, which has been added rather. Sorry, wrong section here. Sorry, I need to actually switch across to the different role now. So what I want to show you now is switching from a sales order processor to an accounting manager, just so you can see the difference in the role center and the navigation pane. Right, so I'm just going to switch across to, so here we can see the list of different profiles which are available in NAV, and these obviously you would assign to your different user groups or to the different users. So I'm going to switch over to an accounting manager. Just going to refresh my connection. That then opens NAV, and I'm now as an accounting manager role. Notice here in the navigation pane, completely different to the sales order processor because this is specific to the accounting manager role. So you've got things like journals, fixed assets, cash flow, cost accounting, that information which is available. Also in the ribbon, different icons, different information shown there. So on the role center, I want to go ahead and add some different parts to this. So I'm going to add my activities to the left. I'll leave Outlook for now. On the right hand side, I'd like to see cash flow, which is new. Let's put a financial performance on there, notifications, and yeah, that'll be fine for now. So I click on OK. Again, just like sales order processor role, it refreshes, and here we have different stacks and queues which is specific to this job function. Also have shortcuts here. Now, cash flow is new in 2013. Essentially, it replaces the liquidity module in the AU version, and it is available in the worldwide version. So all countries now have access to cash flow and cost accounting, which was specific to Australia, to the AU version. So if I have a look at cash flow, the cash flow allows you to show expected receipts and expected disbursements in a list form. What it does is have a look at your open sales orders, take the shipment date and add the customer payment terms to it, and that's when you should expect a cash inflow from that. And on the purchase side, it will have a look at your expected receipt and add the payment terms onto that, and that's when you obviously have a cash outflow. With cash flow, it'll make that suggestion for you, but you can obviously edit those values and make changes to it constantly. So it doesn't post anything to the GL or anything like that. You can just change it. It allows you to also record manual revenues and expenses. So things like salaries and GST expenditure, you can record that information. Now, if I have a look on the cash flow, like the other charts with the sales order processor, I can hover over the amount, click on it, and it takes me shows me exactly how that amount's made up. I can add different filters. So, for example, here I have it showing me positive versus negative, so that's the grouping which is shown here. I then can change the view to say I want to see everything combined, so that's the change in cash and accumulated cash. So now you'll see it adds this green line here which tracks your cash flow. So everything's looking good here. Again, you can click on that, shows you how that value is made up. If you change the period length, when the start date should be, and you can have different groupings. So this is live on your role center and has been updated throughout the day. Another chart which is really nice is the financial performance. So with this, we can link a chart to an account schedule, which is really, really nice. Like, for example, this financial performance, we would then select an account schedule, and we can now decide so we set up the account schedule, and we can then decide what values get shown on the account schedule, on this chart, based on our rows and columns set up within the account schedule. So that's another very nice feature which has been added. Again, here, click on any of the values, and I'm shown how that value is made up in NAV. Okay, so another nice feature which I'd like to just show you quickly is the timeline. So while we're looking at all these charts in NAV, I'm going to show you them on a report. So I'm just going to have a look at item able to make timeline. So if I click on preview, what NAV now does is can show you a lot of, give you a graphical report. So here you can see report showing us what's able to be made, what's our current inventory, scheduled receipts, all of this for your inventory items. So it's really, really nice. Another thing with the graphical interface is that we can now interact with that. So if I show you item availability by timeline, let's select an item. So here I'm looking at an item, and here I can see my quantity as of my start date. I then have a production order or purchase order which gets my quantity up to, which increases my quantity. I can also include a forecast which takes into account supply and demand. And here you can see if I include my forecast that I'm going to go into negative inventory over here. So what I can do here is include planning suggestions, and I can now drag and drop. So now I'm interacting with this graph and dragging and dropping on the graph, and it shows me my before and after situation. So there, for example, if I was to increase my inventory to that level, that would be my inventory on hand, and only here would I go into negative inventory. And you can see it's a lot better picture than it is here. If I'm happy with that change, so I can make multiple changes. If I'm happy with that, I can save the changes. And what NAV does is then creates a requisition line for you based on what you've entered here. So here's my requisition line. There's my requisition line. I can now action this and get the goods purchased in or produce the goods. So that's just a nice, just wanted to show that on the timeline, which is really nice, and you're interacting with a graphical view of your inventory on hand. Obviously, looking at a graphical view is it's a lot easier to pick up where you're going to go into negative stock, as opposed to dumping the entries out into Excel and sorting and filtering. So that is some of the changes in NAV 2013 which I wanted to show. I'd now like to just show the web client. So if I open the NAV 2013 web client, so again here we can access this from virtually any device which has an internet browser. So Internet Explorer, Safari, Firefox, Chrome, and then your mobile devices as well. And again, you don't need NAV installed on whichever machine is accessing the web client. So here you can see the look and feel of it is almost identical to being in NAV. Now here I can, for example, go to a customer card, open the customer card, drill down on the balance, and I'm now viewing entries in NAV via the web client. Not only can I drill down on entries, I can run reports. So if I go to the report tab and I can now run a report directly from an internet browser connected to NAV, and that's standard out the box. So there's nothing, you can obviously build on this, but there's nothing you don't really need to, because there's that web client standard out the box from NAV 2013. So there's my report, which I'm viewing in an internet browser. Okay, so that's, I'd like to leave it there with the demonstration. That's what I wanted to show everyone in NAV 2013. I'll now go back to the slide deck. We have another poll question which I'd like to ask. Okay, so now moving on, now I want to show you the NAV roadmap. So what this shows is just the Microsoft commitment to new NAV releases, and Microsoft continues to invest heavily in NAV. So there's a long and bright future for Dynamics NAV. So here you can see the planned deployments. Right, we have another poll question. I'd now like to hand over to one of my colleagues, Simon Khan, Client Account Manager, who's going to provide you some information on Tectura's upgrade service offerings.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, David. I hope that everyone has found today's session of interest, and perhaps it may have inspired you to start looking into possibility of an upgrade to NAV 2013 in the future. With this in mind, we've already done a significant amount of work from the Tectura side on some tiered service offerings, which are really, will depend on your particular environment, your size and complexity. I'd just like to take a few minutes to take you through those. Let's move to my next slide. Okay, so we've got three offerings. The first is really intended as a prerequisite to the second two, and it's really an evaluation package to let you better understand what the impact of an upgrade might be to your organisation, let you get to touch, look and feel the NAV 2013 product, and get an idea of the scope and potential cost and business case to upgrade. The second two are then the completion of that upgrade process. Number two is what we're calling a standard upgrade, where we bring forward selected modifications that you might have in your existing version of NAV. We'll bring across selected data, but essentially your business processes will stay more or less the same, and the configuration is going to stay essentially the same. This is the kind of upgrade you may have experienced in the past. The third option, because NAV 2013 is such a significant change, especially to the earlier versions of NAV, is more of a fresh approach, a re-implementation, if you like, where you might take the opportunity to actually maybe redesign some of your business processes, scrutinise some of your existing customisations and see whether you really need them or whether a process change could be better supported in the new version. And perhaps you might take that opportunity to redesign things like perhaps your chart of accounts and your dimensions. Okay. So let me just drill a little bit more into the upgrade evaluation package. We put this together around a lot of feedback that we'd had from people where it's often difficult to fully quantify the scope of effort, the cost and the potential business case for doing an upgrade. And often it looks like a lot of hard work and with very little benefit. So to try and help in that process, we've put together this upgrade evaluation package. Really two components to it. The first component is an assessment that we would do with you, which is analysis of your current system and hardware, your future needs, a review of the customization that may or may not need to be upgraded, and assess some of the impacts that may be less obvious, like, for example, if you're moving from Seaside to SQL, some people maybe, few I now would expect, but and also for people that are perhaps using the classic client now that are moving to a role-tailored client, what impacts that can have on your organisation. And also if there are additional products that you have integrated to NAV, are they compatible with NAV 2013? Is that going to be a constraint around you upgrading? Okay. Then the evaluation itself delivers you a working vanilla environment of NAV 2013, preloaded with your data, ready for evaluation and testing. Master data and opening balances for a selected period. We provide some net change training on what's new in NAV 2013, and an upgrade proposal backed by a tangible working system, which should help you with your business case. So, how long will it take? Well, it will vary very much on your own individual circumstances, but we're estimating between 6 to 8 weeks elapsed time. It will require some hardware to install the NAV 2013 version or use of a cloud environment. Some project team resources on your side for testing and evaluation, and obviously business buy-in from your organisation. It may not be for everybody. It may not be appropriate where you have a very large number of critical modifications to your system, and a different approach may be required in that case. We want to be able to provide this on a fixed fee service, so there's no sort of surprises in what it's going to cost and no unexpected overruns. We do need to still determine that on an individual basis, and it will, any time you spend here, will save effort and costs if you then roll forward to a full-blown upgrade. How do I get started on this? Your best point of contact is either to contact your client account manager, or you can email us at the email address shown there, or you can telephone us on that 1300 number. Okay, I'd like just now to hand you back to David. I think we have just a few minutes now for a Q&A session. And another poll question.
Thanks, Simon. Thank you. Okay, we have another poll question which I'd like to ask, so I'm just going to get that up on the screen now. Okay, so that brings us to, we have a few minutes left for a Q&A session. Thank you very much for attending today's webcast. Hope it was of use to see some of the new functions in Dynamics NAV 2013. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. If we can't answer them now, then we'll get back to you with an answer. So you can just type your question in the instant message box on your link session. Just give a few minutes to people that would like to ask a question. Okay, so we have a question. Will you be making the recording session available for download? Yep, the session has been recorded, and we'll send a link out to everyone who attended to download it. Right, so thank you very much everyone for attending. If you have any questions, please just feel free to send them through to your account manager, and we'll have a look at them and get back to you on that. So thank you very much for attending.